I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Tab for going through all the stuff that she's going to go through that will give us all some good perspective on the industry and developments within the industry. And I want to encourage everybody that's attending this meeting, if you're inclined to do so, we host this on a quarterly basis. And we'll set additional meetings to take place during the second semester. We'll set on the regional construction advisory. Everybody's welcome. It doesn't, we also run an education manufacturing connection advisory on Aniga, but so we're the host. Every school is welcome to attend. Everybody that's representative that's looking to connect with students is welcome to attend, or to make connection post-secondary training. So I just want to put that plug out there. Before we end today, we'll set those subsequent meetings for the balance. Okay. Are we recording?
Yes, and yeah, we're just recording for teachers who can't make it, because, this is the way that the State Board of Education wants us to run advisories. We have to cover a lot of things, so I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on some of the things. The resources are in the slide deck, so if you wanna go investigate further on your own, you can do that. But just for the sake of time, there's a lot to cram into 2 hours, and I want there to be an opportunity for conversations between you guys too. So we are trying to meet some quality program criteria by being here tonight. So a lot of the things that we have to cover in our CNC advisories might differ from any other advisories that you might attend. So we have to meet the 9 quality criteria for all CTE programs in the region. So we're hitting 6 of them tonight, technically, if we hit all of these topics. So, so that's your game. Yes. Well, the schools do not have quote unquote quality programs and they could lose funding. So so we don't want that to happen. So we're going to check the boxes, right? We're going to check the boxes as best we can. So these are their expectations that we cover all these things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But as we're looking at and as far as the Department of Labor has put together, the industry has 3 different sectors that they put jobs into, and those are design and pre-construction, construction, and then the maintenance that happens after that. So the national career cluster that this fits into, and this is the fun part of my job. When I look at it nationally, it's called one thing. When I look at it statewide, it's called another thing. And then we even call it different things within our schools. So it's confusing sometimes. But nationally, we call it the architecture and construction cluster. And then statewide, we have the construction and design career program, which includes things like HVAC, electrician, drafting, all those different things are clustered into one program. And oh, by the way, those are links, all of those, they will take you to all kinds of places, to the State Board of Education site, to ONET, which is Department of Labor. So our region CTE programs, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but if you were ever looking for where are our future employees, CANCI conducts a lot of surveys. We ask teachers a lot of questions. We get data from schools. And so we keep a track on that data every year. And so if you were wondering, where are my future construction and design students or employees, here's where they are. And it's kind of hard to, it's a little washed out, but you can see that that line 20 or that row 25 tells us that we have a construction program in most of our high schools, right? And we have quite a few students enrolled in those construction programs. And this only reflects the students that are in the upper level construction program. So there's a lot more queued up to get to this level behind them. So we do have 2 new construction programs. One just went in at Harlem, so they will be up and running full capacity next year. That's why their dot is orange here. Okay, so to be approved for next year. And then we also have just added a full sequence of programs in South Beloit. So we have quite a few, like I said, numbers. We don't have any dual credit. It's not an option right now, but we're hoping we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So yeah, so that's our programs at a glance. It's a crazy spreadsheet. It's a grid full of information. So just take it in little bites because there's a lot to digest there. So we have to talk about what a concentrator is, what a credential is. So like I said, we have the design and construction program from the State Board of Education, which includes all of these programs on the left here. So again, heavy equipment technology, I didn't mention that. Building property maintenance, I didn't mention that was there. So credentials are valuable pieces of certificate that students can earn in high school that they can take into a job interview or entry level. So this leads us to our first opportunity for discussion because these are the only two that we ever see. These are the two that we pay for out of grant money, right? So the discussion question right now is there anything else that would be valuable to you as employers to see entry-level employees come in with? And excuse me, we do have some former Hialeah students here, right? So you can, if you would like to speak on what credentials you went into a job and how valuable that was.
Motion 10. Was it a benefit? That's the thing.
Yeah, it was better.
Did it matter in the interview? It helps. I had to get OSHA 30 at least, within the next probably 2 years. But having that OSHA 10 was a good benefit for it.
So it gave you a leg up over another candidate that could get. They want. Okay.
Lawyers in the room, doesn't matter.
Or you probably wouldn't give them credit at all. They would be exempt from OSHA 30 intro, would they?
What's that?
Would they be exempt from coming to the OSHA 30 class if they took it ahead of time?
That's just for our,
Well, that'd be bigger thing.
if they had 30 coming in. You gotta do
They're
30.
also higher than you need to have to.
Yeah, they said it'd be more constructive for city. Like mine would be more broker for city.
The course literally manipulated to black.
Yeah.
And I had specific on T's, electrical transmission and distribution. It's just part of specific things. Would be something bad. Key.
Well, then I'll ask this follow-up question before, does it at minimum show you that a kid's got the endurance to? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So. Entry level. Yeah.
This is a couple. We hold on. Because that's what challenge. You get a lot of young kids who have no history experience. Who even if it's a ski program. They may or may not have the skills for the handful of that.
There is
Not
one,
in our handful, I don't know if there's any, nationally recognized certifications out there or.
it is, but it's woodworkers, so, talk about. It is totally to this component to safety and hearing.
There is, I can. But it's really hard.
Is
If
it,
we look at it, it's less of a hard time.
yeah,
But it goes to. And kids.
And that, this is important information project now, so I appreciate that. So go ahead, those two brought those 10 and then the wood workers and the, what is it, deficit with. MC3 is the curriculum we're looking to adopt in our construction too. That would be on school in Illinois that we're doing it. It's really not that expensive, but there's the MOU required to do it. It will be supplemental in our curriculum. I don't know what component of the curriculum that you think it would represent in our class, but we have not yet used it, but MC3 is all used now. And it's
Yeah, it's just more of a kind of overview of all the various grades and structure. I think OSHA time is part of that, if I'm not mistaken. It's a labor history as well, but I don't think it's certification hand tools. It's necessarily what it's for. I don't think so.
curriculum we're doing kinds to build, if we're doing habitat and other projects. I don't know, if we can squeeze it in at the end, but it's certainly a great supplement, so. I appreciate that clarification, conversation. Is there anything we can see? Yeah, just curious.
Nineteen weeks is a very starting, that's just, yeah, and I wonder if those guys. Well, yeah, so we follow. We have not adopted it yet. But the over 10 that we're looking to adopt. The partnership between five industry organization and over. So they will actually fit in order. And hard, but it would say. To be and so that's specific, all of the 999 topics that they all are specific to the but they fall under standard topics, it's just that it's on the teams. So, because ultra, you can't teach another curriculum without having be certified to teach the Bible. So,
Yes, I mean, what is the difference between the two? Can you give us an idea?
1910 is general history, so it would be more like. You can think of it this way, like 1926 is construction, so you're going to a job site to build a building. 1910, you're building something inside a building, right? So it's like anything, right? Yeah, but like the shops, it's so. You know, you teach both motion 30s, 10 and 6. The other ones get 1910 are
with that and some other meetings. I'm at all the 10 so over compliance topics in trainings incorporate both from me and 6 that.
There's a lot of carrying over. It prevents you from having to buy old books. And the books don't have to be this thick. So 1926 will reference 1910, it's applicable, and vice versa.
Based on how you get it.
17.
Okay, that's what we do.
Hey. So this is the project that we got going on. Jason, you want to give an update on where we are with the project with Mike and with Rockland?
First year. It's it's like. Came to us last year about. So it's just software baby a lot. Currently, we have 4 shops we printed out, ready to put in ads. Tried to pick up the other day in the shop. They're reading it up there. So waiting on site. So,
That's it, right? But it's just a neat opportunity, just if I can elaborate outside of the project a little bit, the connection with Roscoe on this. We also run an incubator project. My opinion, it's a great connection for the community of Roscoe to have entrepreneurs in, as they did in Batavia, launch into small spaces into then the larger brick and mortar structures of the Roscoe, Rockton region, just out of a small collaboration with Deacon. Our goal is to continue to try to find ways to benefit the community. Because I didn't put this in our slide deck, but we have another collaboration with ourselves. If you haven't been by our campus in a while, we have brand new turf, softball and baseball field that we put in. And one of the structures that is not that was not contracted out as a part of the bid was a storage shed with softball. Adjacent skids are going to be building that, and materials get dropped in a couple of days, which is why, Mike, we need to get the Roscoe walls out of the shop so we've got room. Now, because we've got these two things and weather pending, we have, I think we're really jumping down to the bottom of the agenda here. But
Yeah.
because of that,
No.
we are gonna thankfully Habitat for Humanity is flexible, that's in this year allowing us to just take a step back. We do not have space for all those materials, the materials for our shed and Habitat for Humanity out inside our facility. So we thank them for being flexible and allowing us to step away. They're planning on having buildable land in our region. But building Habitat on site with Habitat. And have been doing that a long time. When I was at Harlem, we did it 1 year before we stepped away from the construction program in 2012. So it's a great collaboration. It's really beneficial. We just haven't had any land by us. And in fall of 2026, they anticipate having land. So we'll have a double block class for our students to be able to go out. So a full 100 minutes for 105 minutes, students to be able to be on site building. And it'll be just a different experience. Right now, construction is 50 minutes. Everything we're doing is in the shop, and then we're gonna try and get over as quickly as we can and get out to Roscoe. But it's likely gonna be hard day or all day field trip. Yeah, site so a lot of stuff. So anyway, that's a little bit about that collaboration. Michael, again. Yeah, it would be a. So out of our incubator class, we hope we get a group each year that wants to go occupy that space and actually move their idea forward. We probably got 4 or 5 of the businesses over the last 12 years that continue to operate and continue to at minimum use it as a side hustle. Some of them are using it as a primary gig. And they've gotten up to college in some cases. So it's an exciting development, both parts in the community collaboration, with the help of our local construction advisory. Jeremy and Colin have JP have provided us a $4,000 donation for materials to help this year as well. One of the last things on the agenda.
I'll get to that.
Thank you for that. Big deal. And we've had other donations as well. We're fortunate. That's why this advisory is so critical for all construction students. We'd like everybody to reap the benefits, including all schools. So anyway, would you like to get back on the
Yeah. No biggie. We just wanted Mike to be able to leave when he needed to leave. So we put him faster.
No petition for this event bad tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get back to the JP Cullen pictures later. So quickly, some labor market information. Construction jobs make up 3.2% of employment in the Rockford region, which is pretty awesome. We have some occupations in construction at a higher ratio compared to the rest of the nation right here in Rockford. So roofers are it's a very big industry in our area. So we have 1.64 roofers in our area compared to the rest of the nation. That's kind of how those numbers work. Local employment changes, construction is actually higher than it has been in past years. So that is awesome. And it has got an outlook to increase still as a 5.6% change over the next 10 years. So this is just Rockford specific, but it is looped into mining, logging and construction. So it's about a 6.7 jump in employment. And then we have some projections that by 2030, we're gonna still be increasing in the construction industry. So when I get stuff from the National Bureau of Labor Statistics, it's always nice to see that the industry that we'll be talking about in the advisory is actually in the top 10, which is awesome. So we have architecture and engineering looped in at 6.8% growth over the next, it looks like 9 years. And then construction and extraction at a 5.6% increase rate. So that is all really good news. And then construction is also one of the goods producing industries that is going to be increasing over the next 9 years. So that is also really a positive outlook. So current industry trends. This is what artificial intelligence gave me. So it's going to lead us to our next discussion point. What kinds of trends are you guys seeing in the industry as you are in it? And my voice is going, so talk amongst yourselves. What kinds of trends are we seeing out in the field? Yeah, and does this list, is it actually accurate?
Start 2017, get ready, September. So, commercial buildings, instead of all the concrete or the steel, which are brutal on the environment. The structure is made as large in timber, proximity timber, moving beams and columns. It's booming all over the country. It's just a little bit of an island here. But cities get ready to, the operating engineers there, the training center out of that material, probably installing. It goes up a lot quicker with a smaller crew. So that's one of the answers to the labor shortage. And then on the technology side of it, we're having to train our crews in BIM, all kinds of different 3D software, total station layouts. The sustainability and recycled materials. With the mass timber, one of the big things is life cycle assessment. Just to be part of the plans from the beginning. Because as long as that wood doesn't get torn down and burned or rot, all the CO2 is forever stored in there. So the wood is a carbon sink. So it stores the carbon, it'll absorb all the free. And, so that's the sustainability side. So it's one of the rare things lately that everybody likes, from the environmentalists to those in just to make a profit. So a lot quicker installs with a smaller crew. All of it's harvested from responsibly forested timber, sustainability side of it, recycle, life cycle assessments. And as our crews are building it, because it's going so quick, we're having to train our guys on scanners to create point clouds or as-built drawings as we are going further. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Then we do it safe. There, I hit them all.
I was wondering how does AI really know? Well, apparently it gets pretty accurate list. So how about the new graduates? Aubrey, Joey, and are you guys seeing any of these things? I know maybe you haven't been on the job for a long time, but are you seeing any of these trends happening in your jobs that you've done?
I think the technology, everyone, but yeah, stands decent with that. I know we get one that we use sometime that's 20 years old, it's 3 years old, and they're trying to, because this one runs faster, and the bids last longer, it sucks up more dust, and it does everything better than the other one, but I mean, and And then obviously safety, like the more I've gone about, that's they make guards to roll saws and more everything and. It's great, but sometimes when you're done crazy stuff, you gotta take all that stuff off to get some pushed through, but. Yeah, I mean, they're making stuff safe, it's definitely upgrading the technology.
Technology from in HVAC, we see a lot more of like building automation systems. So everything is all on computer. We got guys that can almost start a whole service call, start with a now. So that's gone a long way. And they just go back and look at some people that say from the 90s and most basic stuff, but they're showing. So
So touching on the technology and going back to what could help as far as certification goes. A lot of the bigger jobs, on the carpentry side, you don't have any paper prints anymore. It's digital, iPad based. The biggest, there's about 1,500 different construction apps that do basically the same things, but the biggest one in our markets is Procore. And one of the things we have, first year students do for homework is they log into Procore, or their login. And for homework, they do the subcontractor certification. Takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. So if that's something they already had, that part they'd be able to.
Good to know. So Jason, write that down. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the real push behind that was the fact that the over 80% of the jobs run over budget. They don't hit the final benchmarks for completion because of rework. So the second you open up that app, you basically, it's like you have to press a button saying, yeah, I want to lose my contractor money today. So the second you open it, sync it, and then if the architect made a change last night, you've got the latest version in front of you. Right, and then you can superimpose it with the old one to see if there's any conflict.
Yeah. That was a lot of rework.
Yep.
Good, all right.
Anybody else want to? We're running ahead of schedule. All right, so on to the next, so this part we'll talk about some industry skills, actually. All right, so we have one of the things that we get, I guess, assessed on as an education forum fund system. So our region is 14 high schools, 9 school districts. So we are, in the school report card, we get assessed for CTE students who are concentrators. And those are the students who take more than one class. So they can take a class in construction trades and then also a class in electrician and still count towards that same program of study. So we get kind of evaluated as far as our region goes for 9 different components. And so I just want to share the history really quick that 2 years ago, we were not doing so hot. The red ones mean we didn't pass. Okay, the green ones mean we passed and we're doing okay. So we're kind of suffering in academics, specifically in math, reading, and science. And then all of the other ones are things like getting dual credits, doing work-based learning within the program. How many, for construction, it would be females in construction that would be considered a non-traditional student in CTE, as opposed to like a male student that's taking nursing classes. So it's one of those categories. It's kind of weird, and then also post-program placement is what do they do after high school? So all of these 7 categories, we weren't doing so hot in 21, 22. 22, 23, we made some strides and we improved pretty well in a lot of the areas. still struggling in the reading and math. Our report card information just came out, and this next slide is unofficial, but it's my own calculations and it's my predictions of what ISB is going to tell us. So it looks like we're still struggling in all of the academics, and that is mostly because they hiked the expectation unexpectedly. They wanted us to meet way higher expectations. So it's a huge jump. So we're not meeting them again. Wah-wah. So we're gonna try to have a little bit of a conversation about academic skills in CTE. Now, specifically in construction, there is a sheet up here, especially nature teachers, if you guys are in the room. But just different ideas of mathematics in construction, reading and writing in construction, and then science in construction. And as I was reading this list, I was, this is again AI. It's so smart. Has such great ideas. But just the science of construction, especially when you talk about hazardous materials and the science of what concrete and parts of but get it just right. It's talked over my head all the time about it, but there's a lot of science and math and reading in construction. A lot of great ideas. But basically, how can we work together? So this would be an opportunity for you guys to, employers and instructors kind of collaborate a little bit and say, okay, how can we, get together and help students learn these valuable, disciplinary skills, in construction. So when we talk about reading in construction, we're not talking about reading a magazine article. We're talking about reading blueprints or reading a schematic, right? So what kinds of things can employers or companies bring to schools, right, and help out students to kind of get the light bulb or whatever for learning these skills?
Section other than part of it. Luke for reading.
Not a specific. I don't know specific. We Josh to it in 6-week course. Starting class, a small specific unit on it for like a couple of weeks and practice with it throughout the entire course. But not as in depth as it probably should be.
With that to come back and obviously reading different specs, and then you have to take numbers together, right, to get Katie's subject done, right? So if you want to do square footage, to order your materials, that would then suffice on the math side. And then the science portion of it, like, I think there's books out there for building science, right? In basic terms. I don't know how that would relate to your class. Because again, if Jake would be a carpenter, right? I speak more on the carpenter side than anything else, but if you had a basic blueprint for each class, that may help with some of this.
Kind of pose a question to the employers, I guess. We've always heard the statistic in education, that is that to be able to read a technical manual, you got to be able to read at 11th grade level and beyond, which is the level we shoot at for ACT. Based upon your trainings here at Mid-American Carpenters and as employers, do you feel that's a safe thing to say to kids, and we're not deceiving anybody? You get a technical manual, it's going to be written in love, but it takes some literacy skills to be able to give you that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I struggle with. Yeah, I mean, it's the people that can read the print and understand spectrum, they're called leaders. To be honest with you, the superintendents and the ones and superintendents, because they understand how it's. So how do we get it down to that? That's a good question.
How do they decide for math, for this teaching? For CTE, how do they decide for
Oh, so those scores?
Yeah, where's
So those,
that?
so that's, so this is part of the perhaps maybe unfair part about how they pull scores. It is from the SAT or ACT, whichever they decide to take for that year. Because you know, we're switching over to the ACT now. No, it's not CTE math. It's the math test of the SAT. But they pull those CTE kids out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll, to this point, like algebra two, it's not necessary to do a great deal of what's being done and get to discuss. It's arithmetic. It might be a lot of arithmetic or basic, but it's math. So, if you don't make the algebra two, you're not gonna do well in these period. And that's a tough thing. That's the barrier for a lot of students. Successfully in high school or achieve score that will get them into colleges that they would like to go to. In some cases, even in the military that I have had. It's all relevant. And I'm sorry it's that way, but that's the game.
Is that a state?
It is at the state. Our state test is.
No, who's deciding that they're gonna use that test?
That's the only thing they can use. That's the only data they have to pull. So it's
That's the
a little unfair. Because, so we talk about disciplinary, academic PTE because, you know, that's you teaching them how to read a ruler and use a ruler. But we also think that in the end, it might be the thing that turns a kid on to reading. By learning that, oh, I can read a print, or, you know, in a health science class, oh, I can read a, you know, medical chart. And then hopefully that will lead into better academic facing skills, you know, but yeah, it's a little unfair.
It's for that, how to make it seven, it's completely done.
So is it, consider, say, geometry, is it a prerequisite to get into construction? Is,
There's,
that could help getting into CTE, right? Like, hey, in order to get into construction level two, which is ultimately saying means it's up for, do we take it back into where we have to at least geometry? To understand the formulas to figure out where we're at.
But the relevant thing to discuss, state of Illinois. Geometry and algebra are graduating. Got it.
Okay.
Or the equivalent of your special education, so whatever, those two classes mathematically. So if you were to throw a pre-grade content of geometry. Difficult, to be like doing that talk for a year, that would allow you to say, yes, so we're inspiring you to do well in that math class, to be able to earn the opportunity. We haven't done that, but it's possible. And there are schools, you see curriculum released called contextualized math, where you're teaching geometry and construction. That's the way it's taught, contextualized. And then there's business that's algebra based. You're teaching business and economic concepts with algebra. So it's contextualized. We haven't considered that something different too.
but you have to start at soft level, like schools with geometry, so then you're pushing off. Construction program is what it building on that, one big question is years intro and then started.
For sure, but isn't construction
For us, it's junior students. Usually it's senior.
Yeah, some. Was a second construction, three builds up. So we try to build it, so we can.
You build a house,
Now you know what. It's further, so.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Scott's ED and her pianist, they're talking about teacher work trips. hardscape industry to bring teachers in for CPE. Because they want to bring non-CPE teachers into these workshops to have these non-CPE teachers see how they teach in maths and in CPE course or stuff. And I think that's a great idea. Not that problem development, like, finance, so, that is actually our, some programs is actually looking at developing teacher workshops for our some programs. That kind of the same thing, because no one topic is an unto itself. What we learn in math to apply in many different classes, same with, reading, so in English. So these teachers need to understand that they're not just teaching English. So get a good grade and take the next thing.
Yeah, amen.
So we can have employed skills after they get out of high school, if their path is not.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Principal, not me, I feel like if you can't tell me your application of your course, I don't know what I'm teaching. If the whole purpose is to pass tests, that's a waste. I hate to say that. It's not about. I understand opening the door, but you should do really well on test. That's opening the door. That's the goal, something beyond, more than a test, or we're gonna say.
Oh, well, I gotta say, I was just gonna say, the only course outside of all coach esports, but I think I took them all that I could. Math is the only course that I like because math is real life. Math wasn't based, it wasn't based on opinion, and I have to write a 5-page paper and get graded on my thought process, not how I wrote. But if you want to draw this bridge, you gotta make a math class where instead of Tommy and Sally and look at we get that, you get instead of taking away, like you were saying, it should be a course talk. Here's the job, here's how much material we work, you gotta figure out, like I was just telling Coach, right? I do it all work. Sorry, I'm gonna attend sheet on the truck. One of the sheets that, one, I can say, they're gonna figure out. Well, you gotta. Where it's real like applications being taught to the kids. So that you go, this ain't, this is everyday stuff. That goes. But I mean, you don't have to teach it, I guess, for you to teach in the field or in the shop, teach that in class. But bring the shop mentality into the class.
Another program, teaching teachers the application.
Feedback. That. Are needed.
It is just for teachers, teachers come into classes and get the lessons. So I'm gonna bring this back to relevance for us at schools specifically and not, we see performance gap for students. Identify as low income compared to our students who are not low income, the students who are special education students compared to those students who are not special education. So there's a band with the kids in here that have to see the application. That aren't just doing it, oh, I gotta go to college, my parents make me go to college, or I definitely go to college and be a doctor, and that too, everybody does. We have kids that hate school.
Love school.
Well, we have one that hated school. And we have one that loves school, but also hated school because of the demand it put on him academically because of the time. And so it's about making the connection and showing teachers the connection is not that difficult to make. It's not that hard to say, hey, what we're gonna learn today applies to these 5 fields. And if you're thinking about these 5 fields, that's great. You need to be thinking about what you're gonna do when you leave high school, because life doesn't end when you get your diploma. in High school. And we have a lot of seniors in all of high schools that won't admit it, but they're freaking out because they don't know what's happening. They just know they don't wanna live at home. And they wanna make 100 grand. That's it.
Keep dragging this out, but, prior to my role now, I hated it. It was abstract to me, because there was no application for what I was being told was in my. I knew my favorite thing as an instructor was, and to this day, my mom laughed. My favorite thing was taking a whole classroom full of apprentices that were, 90% the same person I was, and making that light bulb go on math, and teaching them algebra, teaching them trig without ever using those words, but you're afraid of explain. There is no better tool to teach math than framing square in their hand. They have that direct application. It's proven that, that learning technique, when your hands are on the subject, your whole body is involved in that learning process. It's not just the muscle between your ears and you're being told to memorize something. So we don't ever use the word algebra. We don't use the word trig until we're done. And then I just did what? You're one of those guys. The roof framing is by far the easiest way of teaching math.
A great lesson for the whole programming here.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot to be said there, another part of it that will get their hand. They can see the math now. And now they start to develop that spatial intelligence and that awareness. And that's when all of a sudden the confidence starts to build, and boy, now it starts to build. Right.
That's what I started doing.
Right.
Well, and when you do something, it works. That I was, I gotta feel, I gotta do, you sit there. Love listening to your speech, and there's nothing wrong with it. We're gonna be.
We go ahead and it. Yeah. I mean, it's necessary, and it really is, it's not key that this, purpose money doesn't apply to those people. So it's money that's gotta get found.
Yeah, so that thing is we teach contextuals, that's the word you use, math, English, reading, science. We're sneaking it in, only it training the algebra, but it's there, that would be. So. Really cool, they find out that, hey, I can do that stuff, and so that's the whole point of us talking about this, is that maybe it then turns them on to have that confidence that, oh, okay. Now that I've applied it, now I've had it. So just the book work and the homework and the stuff work for everyone. All right, so thank you, everybody.
Before we talked a lot about that. I guess the request I'll make is anybody that's ever coming into Jason's class or any of the other instructor classes, is hitting up besides support as well. Like the math is essential to be able to problem solve and build, instruct, but you can't learn without the reading. You can't acquire the knowledge you need to be able to continue to advance. So continue to sell reading. We do have kids that just don't think they can both in math or reading. So emphasize that in the speaker. But thank you.
So moving on to other skills, these are the competencies that the State Board of Education expects of all students that are in MET programs, which construction and architecture is kind of housed within it. Remember, I said it's called different things anywhere you look. Here's another example. So it's part of the MET. So that stands for Manufacturing, Engineering, Technology, and Trades. So it's all big group of different things. So we're talking about all of these, I think, 10 topics. And these are the things that students should be able to learn or show proficiency in by the time they are finished with the program. So there is a handout that explains what each one of those is, but when you get the presentation, you click on that center link there and it'll take you to the actual PDF there. So we'll move on from that. So now we get to talk about just a couple of, I'll give you some examples of some high wage, high demand, and high skill jobs that are in this career cluster. And so all this information is grabbed off of ONET, which is the occupational network put on by the Department of Labor. So they have a lot of information on there for any person that wants to find out about a career pathway. Okay, so I pulled two, and I'm not going to go over them in depth at all, but I pulled two that have a high likelihood of, increase of job availability in the near future. So construction laborers was one of the top ones. Again, this is in the construction sector. Remember, it's in 3 different parts. So this is the actual building part of everything. So if you go down this list on ONET, it has all of these different work contexts. Like it'll tell you, hey, just so you know, because this is really important, and this is for teachers mostly, because part of your job as a CTE teacher should be to kind of be telling students, okay, I know you're in a construction class, but here are other related fields that are within this career cluster, right? So here are your options. And you should know that this is a hard job. This is hard labor. You're going to have varying work conditions, indoor, outdoor, it doesn't matter. You're going to have a lot of physical labor, and you're going to have a time pressure a lot of the time to get the job done. So there are 27 of those that students should be aware of. There are 32 different work activities that they list there, including you're going to be handling and moving objects, working with your hands, you're going to be operating equipment, etc. So interest profiles, we talk about, profiling students and their interests, kind of figuring out which direction they want to go. So they should be a realistic and conventional worker. They like the physical work and they like to follow the procedures. And then they should be into construction and mechanical type of stuff. So this job has a bright outlook, projected to grow 10% in the next, 6 years, 8% in the US. So Illinois has a great outlook for that. We have a lot of job openings coming in the next 6 years. And this is one of the most interesting industries for Rockford, because most times when I'm talking about this stuff, it's always, well, here's the wage, the median salary for the nation, and well, Rockford, you just don't make as much. But construction is actually the opposite. We make a little bit more here than the typical worker in the US, which is kind of nice. So $47,830 for Rockford specifically is the median salary, opposed to $45,300 in the US. So there's a link directly to that ONET. Now, I want to super quickly show teachers specifically this handout that I have right here. Okay, this is on mynextmove.org, which is a student version of ONET. And so when I was a teacher, I would take students to this website. It is condensing the information on a one-page handout. They can send it to print in the library. They can put their name on the top. But it basically tells them all of the basics, what kind of education they're going to need, what the salary is, what the technology they should know, what kind of personality they should have. So it's a really easy, watered down version of what ONET has, which is very overwhelming. Okay, so ONET, I think, is like for someone who is, you know, maybe changing careers and they really want to get the deep look on what's going on. But mynextmove.org is for students, and it's, I would say, starting in middle school, you know, they should be kind of cruising through that site because it really gives them a lot of good information at a time. Okay, so there's a handout for that if you guys want that. The other, and this was actually given to us from the Home Builders Association of Rockford, just showing the hourly wage growth in, I think this is specific to Rockford, isn't it? Beth? Do you remember?
I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Well, it's from the statistics.
yeah, so they pulled it for that, and they kind of sent it to us. So the hourly wage is actually going to be growing as well. So that's the prediction, and that's always a good thing for our area. The other job that has a great outlook is electricians. So I won't go over this again, but there's a link to it again. And then there's also, if you went to mynextmove.org, you're going to find a much more simplified version of that. So again, the median salary is higher in Rockford than it is average nationally. So these are two great places to go for students. Okay. All right. So we have long-term needs in the industry. We have a labor force that has shrunk a little bit, right? So between 2013 and 2023, we had 11.7 million growth, but this next 9 years here, we're gonna have a lot less workers. Okay, I don't really know why. I'm not really gonna go into that research, but what we have here is we have a projected for 2033, we have a shrinking age group 16 to 24 that are entering the workforce, which is requiring our 65 and older to stay in the workforce longer, right? So I don't know, I'm not really an expert in this kind of area, but that's kind of what is predicted. And so, you know, it's kind of scary a little bit, but, and it could be that the 16 to 24s aren't entering because the 65 and olders are just insisting on staying, or they need to be trained, right? So they need, or their next apprentice needs to be trained so that, you know, you don't want to have Joe, he's the only guy that knows how to do that one thing, right? We got to train those younger people to come in and be able to replace those retiring workers. So that's just a long-term need. So essential skills real quick, we'll go over and we'll discuss this a little bit. A while back, Beth sent you guys a survey to fill out, rating the top essential or soft skills that employees should be coming in with. And so I just want to show you what the answers were or what the results were. On the left, we have what construction pathway teachers said differently than employers. So these were the things that were rated as either extreme or very important. Okay, I didn't include things that were mediocre important. Okay, extremely or very important. So teachers think that initiative is a really, really important skill to have, whereas employers didn't really value that much, but they valued accountability and adaptability. Teachers did not really bother with that one. Okay, so that the red and the blue are where they differ. The black in the middle is where they all agree. Okay, so all of those 5 in the middle, both teachers and employers said are very important or extremely important. Okay. So does anybody?
Thank you for taking the survey.
Yes, thank you for taking the survey.
Surveyed out.
Right. So the accountability, I just want to touch on just real quick because we did a survey last spring. And one of the things that employers said was one of their biggest obstacles to employee retention is actually people showing up for work. Right? So attendance, tardiness, and poor performance were the top 2 for retaining employees. So it kind of makes sense that accountability and adaptability would be on employment. So that kind of makes a lot of sense to me. So what are some ways that we can improve essential skills as we teach them in school And this is just for employers to kind of give, teachers ideas, teachers to give employers a realistic look about, what teaching high school is like. So yeah, again, noting that communication skills are commonly noted in job applicants, and obviously we saw that accountability. Let you guys take the floor and just kind of discuss, what do you think is missing and how can we help this problem?
Teachers in here, they did talk to somebody. Then waves of funds, plans. They had a daily accountability score that they gave that student. Like 4 criteria, work on time, participate, and go. And they did that on a daily basis. And that factor into their proposal grade. And you show up at work. Sit in the classroom, they want to sit in the back corner. And do nothing. They're not held accountable. The end of the quarter and so that's something that
Well, the consistency of that. They know that's gonna happen every day. And
Honestly, it's something that maybe gets checked by a teacher. Weekly, monthly, whatever it be. Determine if they're assessment of a student's performance. These schools that are measuring essential skills in the state and providing the report. There are some states that do it, part of the standard based grading adoption in the state. But not many schools that I know, unless it's about Iron Hill for you guys. For you guys providing essential skills feedback to students.
Basically, I need to rubric, it's the accountability aspect, being at a time. Or participating. Touch anything on the self. I themselves, I go back, they're harder than I am. So themselves, but that's a large part of it. You got the administrators, not supposed to bring big problems. Not being in class, yeah, already, but so so. Good for you.
Yeah. We've talked about it in this side of previous, and we have a workplace readiness committee, and I'm meeting that discusses this kind of stuff. We previously had a rubric that we used to score kids on by that grade once. But not implemented consistently, and it was also done in a non-smart. So if you guys provided knowing who graded them out, and they were all average, so you wouldn't know if one kid, if you're performing amazingly in one class. And Greg Carly said it best when he heard about that averaging, it's like bullshit. Well, it's like that. You're good. And it's right, we don't do it, we stopped doing it after COVID, but we get this real, they just trying to bring it back. Every one of the advisors I speak with, manufacturers, auto, and everybody's gonna say, hey, if you're not telling kids where they are on these skills, what do you do? And it's a challenge to, I think, get them teachers to embrace the idea. But the number one thing we complain about is like, doing your homework, coming to school, being on time, and staying on yourself. Those are not academic skills taught. That here, it's thought for essential. I don't get back to game.
I'm gonna say, my wife has teached for many years, so this is a conversation I hear a lot, but I know we're talking about solutions, not problems, but I think identifying a lot of these cases, kind of a solution, but it's engaging parents in this issue as well, because at least from what I see, all the educators in my life, it's becoming, I also get that from the apprenticeship coordinator as well, I think. Becoming a bigger issue over time, and so why is that? Well, it starts, you know, I don't want to get a whole philosophical discussion here, right? But like, how do you engage the parents? So maybe is it like a metric that then they're seeing as well? So it's not school versus the family dynamic, you know, and things like that. So that's one thing I see is missing a lot of these conversations. Again, some kids come from families where that's not even gonna be a thing in common and engage, but how do you have that as a holistic, you know, way of addressing that and getting that? Because if you just have a teacher or in a school system, an institution, that they don't ever value that or see how it's leading, and parents not aware of it in a way that's not antagonistic to them. How they do it again, I don't know, I guess that's just what I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, a team, student, family, and educators, that's the goal. And that system of evaluation, can't feel like that your self-evaluation, can't feel like a hammer. It's gotta feel like a measuring stick. I get a, and next to it, how do I measure up? It can't feel like you're gonna hit me with this hammer if I don't do it. It's gotta be how am I measuring up? And it's. If there's a way in the industries that you see an opportunity for us to engage in these types of conversations, across families, with students, and quite honestly, with non-CTE educators, really get the gravity of something going. Because that's we still use it on it. We have teachers in our special education program, we send kids out to work in facilities. They use it to rate their students' performance as they work in facilities, and then the CT department uses it.
Well, kind of a problem. Yes, I feel this. We don't get. We get told our business partners, we have to give them 50% whether you come and. You can come to the old school and get 50%. So what job would ever get that? And you know, there's no accountability anymore, and it keeps saying that you guys are the ones requesting that, which I don't believe. We can use your help pushing back, saying, no, they need to be held accountable for their choices of not coming, sitting in the corner, refusing to contest, and still getting passive grades. We're passing, I feel like I'm passing kids out here that have none of that. But it looks like I'm bigger. I don't know how I need to run to that.
It's a philosophical grading conversation. I mentioned there are some states that require this type of assessment. Kentucky is a school that's a standard-based grading state. And so every report card you get in the state of Kentucky will include an academic and a sort of behavior component, right? And that's on the transcript as well. Now it's good at that kind of kid. But I think it's relevant. If you go on to college, get a 4.0, if you've been a real jerk, that's relevant. People ought to know that. That ought to be something that we can provide feedback and grow a student. But it is about that philosophical question of 50%, 50% stuff failed. It failed. And so there's this that
To me, you work with me building a house. It's going to come 1 day a week. It's 60 minutes. Nobody's getting paid for that. Oh, yeah, they do. We're teaching them that accountability really stuff. And my bid for a goal.
And so it's us finding a way to integrate it. And honestly, I'm trying, I think our best shot is getting it into a mental program and building there. Working with CT department, trying to get outside of that department, using our workplace readiness committee, social emotional learning committee. To try and get more and more teachers on board. The idea that kids need to know what their essential skill development. And then so I've asked this question to Onondaga students at the Principals Council last year. I'll ask you guys, what would it have been like to get feedback on not your academic performance, because that should be your grade. But there are a lot of kids that don't pass at Onondaga because they may not do the homework, but they'll pass all the tests. But they don't get the credit, in my opinion, I really struggle philosophically, because if the kid knows, it should. But if you were to get a report on a regular basis at Onondaga in your school that said, this is how you're doing socially, emotionally, in these essential skills, what would that? Would that be something you think you would have appreciated, or maybe in adolescence, been like, no thanks?
It's really what.
It's filled you with the stuff. See. You're a learner.
I mean, I was a student, I thought I brought along. And although I can know where it's valued, or what value, but sometimes it may be great, maybe be a feel where I got it, I went, oh, yeah, that's annoying. I think I should have. Socially, people.
That's a great reflection. And I'll tell you, there's some kids in every one of our schools that feels like they don't fit in the school box. You know, big in school experience, but they're great kids. And they're not getting that feedback. That is, I'm a good kid, doesn't feel like that. They don't provide that air.
Done with our pre-apprenticeship, which a lot of the folks coming into the pre-apprenticeship are straight in the school, so it's pretty close age wise. You know, in workforce education, curriculum development, it's still different than in an age group. So we could start with the most clearly stated criteria of evaluation, whether it's performance based, and assess and go through all that. Sometimes that doesn't work. What we've done with our pre-apprenticeship is peer assessments. Yeah. That I pay attention to. What do my peers think of it? And I believe it goes so far as getting towards the end of the 7-week apprenticeship. Every person in the class has to list the top region. If they were a contractor, who would you hire? Class. Get somebody that's like on the bottom of everybody's list. Well, for starters, you're not listening to any of my assessments, but now you're listening to your assessment. That's way from.
And in the right environment can be.
Right, I don't know how that would be looked at in a high school setting.
It could be very powerful. If in the right environment with a teacher who has not created the environment of it. That's right.
But it's the same.
Yeah.
I thought it's okay. But I'll just get my paper. Hey, I think you should do this. That's where I get people that form paper.
It's just the skill, Steve Covey, this people to improve this as a sport. So we all learn differently, with content information differently. I could spend an hour, he's looking at Jason and he could look at me like I have 3 hours. But somebody else could spend 5 minutes, that may we're trying to explain that thing. So that peer review can be very helpful.
The biggest, we'll take notes. That is supporting principles. Sorry. Did you have anything you want to add? I don't think it would, but it might be able to help them kind of decide. Honestly, what they're do after high school, but they can see their strong suits and they're good with communication, they could go into some type of field like that, they kind of gauge their strong suits and what they lack, yeah. Yeah, and deciding what's going after is the biggest, most important decision. I say that all the time, students, the most important decision you're making, not me, what you're gonna do to me. Hopefully they choose wisely.
If they don't, they can choose something.
They can,
Great.
they can.
So I have just a quick, I think I have a full picture of this. Jump to, which is going to inspire us to have our last, discussion topic, tonight, so, yeah, so anyway, I have some pictures that Jason sent me. I'm gonna find them real quick. The.
I was gonna say.
You did, and I downloaded them to this thing, so. Yeah, so just thinking about ways that we can collaborate and, just. Just so you guys know, the Harlem construction program that just got started, we actually, have heard from them that their construction program did not get much of a materials budget this year. So if there are any companies out there that want to lend a hand and donate materials like JP Cullen has done for Hananiga, I can give you guys the, there we go, here it is, found it, his contact information. So that would be really cool. Okay, so we'll just do this.
It's out of you. The loop. It's just a deal done.
Okay. And sorry, they're gonna all come in like little bitty pictures. Okay, so lots of. So what are we, so what's the story?
So Jeremy came out and talked to kids about it, so you can tell them, because I didn't even make it down. Sorry, but we appreciate
I'm
it.
just gonna click through the pictures.
Short example. Not sure about where. Like, all the perfectly a lot of it. So we brought it over cereal, and then going to the dumpster, which is a great learning experience. My kids, first time it's much. And the classes build steel stone walls and drywall. Last period by Jeremy's construction, ran through tooling, ran through how we constructed, they laid it out. Things put forward.
So this is just one example of collaboration that we've had here, and the other is donation I mentioned earlier. Been fortunate to have the support of many of the groups in our construction advisory group over the last few years to get material donations. Martin Exterior gave some donations last year, and we're just very fortunate. There's a good representation, smiles on kids' faces. There's I try to emphasize, I don't think kids understand how special it is to operate a place where you have the support of the community. The way that a lot of these programs in particular do, but I definitely feel that way at Hananiga about this experience. So thanks for giving me some time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Much appreciated.
And then I think on the agenda, is there an update on the construction?
Yeah.
Possible, so I will lose. So the plan here is to run a modified small construction. Original state was to use Habitat construction homes and have each of the competing schools build a garage, and I had that evaluated, having determined that there's not a possibility really, certainly not this year, do smaller scale construction competition. Potentially at one of the school site, have students build, and what was, what do you think, an interior room?
It's a small, full wall structure. Yeah, it's.
So Jason, you want them to send this out to the teachers and then try and arrange time specifically, maybe.
That's where it's. That's interesting. Thought we were, so planning for it through.
Yeah, prior to the next meeting. Again, I felt like at the conclusion of the last meeting, and I don't know if you still have the ambition to try and make it happen this year, but would be to collaborate enough to be able to put something together for our students to be able to compete and then invite everybody to be a part of that, whether it takes place this year or next year.
The last meeting instructors, they were pretty gung ho about it this year. For sure. Like, it's kind of on board on that. Structure into it, we'll build it here. I think Chris will probably be on board. So.
Yeah. Over Harlem. Hammers, nails, big wet board. Sure. They. So, well, there'll need to be a subgroup. Last time we met, we talked about like getting a subgroup together to meet outside of these meetings that we're going to need. To be able to. Probably.
Yeah, sorry, Yancey advisors take up a lot of time with all that other stuff. Sorry.
If we don't get the money, so it's important.
Wish I didn't have to. do that. Sorry. But, so anyway, an opportunity to collaborate. So, you know, what kinds of ways can you as a business go into schools or schools get hooked up with businesses now that all of our teachers have left except for one? That's really difficult. Oh, two. We have a difficult conversation with that. But so like the teachers who are left, how can we kind of collaborate with them to go into their classrooms? Right. So we have Belvedere and Hananiga, and did I miss anybody? Yeah, judges would be good.
Judges, material, fantastic. Would say like operating non-traditional environment like steel studs, but then you really be challenging students in a way they never been challenged before. It would be applying skills they just learned. Yeah. Want it to be demonstration day, not a learning day, so, yeah. So what would you need for the material list that you have? Here.
There is full instruction. All for responsibility. Just two other votes. Voted by. Fortunately, we have put something on this salons, so. But as far as judges, things like that.
Okay. We went through all that. So that's pretty much it. Do you want to start talking about a next meeting or